2024 is so important for Mercedes as they rebuild their car and prepare for life after Lewis Hamilton, something that the team don't seem to be prepared for. Today, I'll check out the W15, how the car was changed from last season, and how Mercedes are going to cope in this clutch season. So, don't go anywhere. At the very brief Mercedes car reveal on Wednesday morning, team principal Toto Wolff said that the goal for the season was to do a good job, look inwards, trying to have a car on track that is predictable with lots of downforce, a strong engine, and just a solid job, deliver on our targets. This is what we would like to achieve, to give a car to Lewis and George that they enjoy driving, and not as difficult as the previous years, and hopefully in Bahrain in a week's time, we'll have some more good feedback than bad. That pretty much sums up where Mercedes are at the moment. After 8 seasons of almost complete domination in Formula 1, 2022 and 23 has reminded Mercedes that winning in this sport is not easy. You can't just play it safe and expect to be better than those around you. You have to be perfect, you have to be brave, and above all, you have to be prepared to fail. Wolff & Co have been humbled over the past couple of years, and with a brand new car that is apparently completely reworked, no one, including themselves, should be expecting a title-challenging season. The center of the conversation all season will be Lewis Hamilton and his decision to move to Ferrari instead of seeing out the rest of his career at Mercedes. There have been as many reasons given for the move as there are cars on the grid. Was it the money Ferrari was offering? Would Mercedes not offer him a long enough contract? Perhaps he decided Mercedes were not in a place to be competitive. Maybe he thinks Ferrari is on the up. Or he just wants to fulfill the dream of driving for Ferrari. Though Fernando Alonso did have something cheeky to say about that recently. It was not his childhood dream 12 months ago, no. Or 2 months ago, I guess, because it was a different dream then, the Spaniard said. Whatever the reason for his decision, at the core of the move is the fact that if Hamilton thought he could win another title at Mercedes, he wouldn't have gone anywhere. Mercedes can't get away from that. That will have destroyed Toto Wolff more than anything else. In his eyes, he and Lewis were a team, a dynamic duo, inseparable in the F1 world. But at the end of the day, F1 drivers want to win, and with Lewis leaving, Wolff will have to come to terms with the fact that he isn't as close to his all-star driver as he thought he was, and that the same driver doesn't have faith in him to guide a title-winning team. Speaking as Mercedes unveiled its 2024 car at Silverstone, home of the British Grand Prix, Hamilton said it has been a privilege to work with the team. It has obviously been emotional, Hamilton said. It's very surreal to be here, given I came here in 2013, so 11 years with the team, starting my 12th, and it is such a privilege to work with a group of people when you see the work they're doing over the winter. Mercedes was due to do a brief shakedown at Silverstone on Wednesday before heading to Bahrain for 3 days of pre-season testing next week. The focus will be on getting the team back to where we once were, Hamilton said. I think we've had this difficult couple of years, which I think has been really grounding for us. It's helped us regroup. Interestingly, that shakedown running is being conducted at the same time as the McLaren team are taking their MCL38 for its first spin around the track. To keep all the work both teams have been doing over the winter secret, they're using different pit lanes, not just pit boxes, different pit lanes, and driving on a different track configuration to each other. Obviously, they'll see each other's cars in a week's time anyway at the Bahrain preseason test, but anything that can be kept secret will be for as long as possible. So what has actually happened to the W15 that is going to make it more predictable with lots of downforce, as Toto said? Well, unsurprisingly, lots. Mercedes have made some sizable alterations to their long-awaited 2024 F1 car. A big focus has been on improving the previous car's unpredictable rear axle, which the drivers often refer to as spiteful, Mercedes technical director James Allison said. We have worked on that to try and create a car that is reassuring to the drivers. At the beginning of a corner, when you're hard on the brakes and turning in, the rear needs to feel rock solid. And then as you get towards the apex, the car needs to feel progressively more nimble and eager to turn. We've been trying to build that into the car. We've also worked hard to create a less draggy car and to add performance in the corners. To make all of that happen, Mercedes have started at the absolute bones of the car. They've redesigned the chassis and gearbox casing on the W15, something that was not possible during the 2023 season due to the constraints of the F1 cost cap. Even in the off-season, redesigning the chassis is a big investment and will definitely have an impact on how much in-season development Mercedes can do. Knowing what exactly has changed to the chassis is impossible because it's mostly hidden away, but what we can see is that the front suspension has been completely reworked. They're still using the pushrod front suspension, which many people think is worse than a pull rod setup in the current regulations. Notably, Red Bull have been using a pull rod front suspension setup for the last 2 years. Mercedes have reworked the upper and lower wishbones though to improve the aerodynamic impact they have on the car. One of the big advantages of the pull rod front suspension is the impact it has on the overall aero profile of the car. But if Mercedes have worked out how to do that with a pushrod suspension, they will negate the advantage the pull rod teams have over them. The iconic, or perhaps infamous would be more accurate, slimline side pods that Mercedes debuted in 2022 were dropped in Monaco last year, but due to their chassis being made for the old side pods, Mercedes couldn't make them how they would have liked. This season though, with the new chassis, they've been able to design the side pods of their dreams. That dream appears to be a variant of the water slide design that is popular across the grid, though it isn't easy to see from the press release photos. The undercut of the side pod is much larger than it was last season, but the floor edge that is on show for the press release looks much simpler than the specification that was on show at the end of 2023. That may mean that the team have used Photoshop to hide some of the finer details of the car shown this week. After Bahrain, we should be able to talk more about it though. With new side pods come a new side pod inlet, and the W15 has these beautiful, curved inlets, which the side pod balloons behind. They've also gone for the large lower lip that we saw on the new Ferrari car as well. This big bottom lip will help direct air under the side pods and along the floor edge. That curved inlet is a big departure from what we've seen from other teams. Its purpose could be to try and shed air outside of the rear tyres, with the vortexes that come off the back of it. The front wing has also changed. The nose cone now stops at the second element instead of reaching all the way to the front of the car. This allows more air to travel under the front wing and then under the ground effect floor, increasing the downforce created. Something we haven't seen before is the spoon scoop at the very front and center of the Mercedes front wing. Designed to help with that channeling of air, it is a striking departure from the normal wing element shape, and it'll be interesting to see if other teams adopt the same design going forward. All of these changes are obviously in aid of the aerodynamic performance of the car. As James Allison said, creating a less draggy car that creates more downforce was a goal of the team. Whether this design does that or not, we'll have to wait and find out. What we can say though is that there is a huge amount of change on the car, far more than we saw from Ferrari, which tells us that Mercedes have been ambitious in the off-season, and that should get their fans excited. What do you think of the W15? Do you think it'll be competing for race wins, or is this going to be a rebuilding year for Mercedes? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and until next time, drive safe and bye for now.